Very well. It's 7 o'clock on the dot, Thursday, May 14th, 2020. We're in the National Palace in Mexico City, and we are going to get started with our daily press conference on COVID, the pandemic caused by the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2. Just like many other Thursdays, we're going to be focusing on two things. We're going to hear Dr. Alomia, he's the chief of epidemiology, and we're also going to hear from Dr. Alcala, and he's going to give us the mobility report. Citizen outreach. He talked about mobility already this week, so we're going to talk about outreach to people, communication, and then we'll have Q&A after. Good afternoon, everyone. Here we are again, just like every day, here at our nightly press conference so that we can update you on the different contexts about what's going on with our hospital network. We're on day number 53 of our Susanna Safe Distance campaign. We have 2 weeks and 2 days left. Please do remember that our national campaign, remember that it was implemented in the last week of March. And precisely the point of all this was to lower transmission rates and lower the burden of disease, lower the number of people who are sick and infected with COVID. And this also aimed to lower the burden on our hospitals. We also, just like at other conferences, we are just so happy to have cooperation from our active Mexican society participating in our safe distance campaign. This is our number 76 nightly conference. Let's quickly take a look at the international context. 1 percentage point the pandemic has contracted. Now it's at 27%. The burden of disease, this is the burden of disease that has been confirmed over the last 2 weeks. This is very similar to the last couple of days, but what is highlighted here is that the Americas has been reflecting, it has the largest number of cases now. It's had a significant increase percentage-wise with regard to other areas. Here are updated numbers for Mexico for today. 42,595 confirmed cumulative cases. Then we have 155,932 people who've been tested. And of people who have tested positive, we have those 42,000, and we have 86,591 people who have tested negative. It's important to underscore here that the cumulative cases, 24% of those, about 1/4, represent the active pandemic. Those are the 10,057 confirmed active cases. These cases, these 10,000 cases, showed symptoms over the last 2 weeks. So this is what's driving the pandemic in Mexico. And these are people who can still transmit the virus to other people. So it's very important that we control these people because this is what's keeping transmission active in Mexico. We've had 4,477 very unfortunate deaths that have occurred due to complications from COVID-19. Let's go to the next slide, please. Here we have our map of Mexico. You can see with our color scale, we're showing you the burden of disease, the number of diseases that have been confirmed since the beginning of the pandemic in Mexico. This is the cumulative visualization of the cases. In all of our states, we have accumulated more than 5,500 cases. That's the red color, from 501 to 1,000 cases. And up to now, we only have 2 states that have hit the maximum darkest number of over 3,000 cumulative cases. We can see that very clearly with the map It's the state of Mexico and Mexico
En la
City.
siguiente diapositiva
On our
vemos
next
esta
slide, we
misma
see the same
distribución, pero ahora en
distribution,
orden
but presented to you as a
descendente
bar
para que
graph.
ustedes
This is
rápidamente
so that
puedan
you can
identificar
quickly
los
identify
estados y
the
los números
states and the
totales para cada
totals
uno
for
de
each
ellos.
of those states.
Solamente llamando la
Now,
atención
it
que
does
nuestra tasa de
call our
incidencia
attention that our
nacional, en este
national
caso la
incidence
acumulada
rate
desde que
is the
inició la epidemia,
cumulative rate
es del
that has been going on
33.3
since the
por
start
100
of the
mil
pandemic, and
habitantes
this
en
has to
México.
do per
La siguiente diapositiva
100,000
veremos ahora la
inhabitants.
carga
Let's
activa,
take
es decir,
about
estos
the
10.057
active burden of disease, the
casos confirmados,
10,057 active
personas con inicio
confirmed
reciente en los últimos 14
cases.
días de
These are people
enfermedad.
who, again, in the
Aquí vemos que la
last two
coloración
weeks
del
have
mapa
presented
lógicamente
symptoms.
es
The map
más
shows
clara
you
y
more
esa barrera que
clearly
decíamos o
where these
ese,
cases are concentrated.
vamos, límite de
Now, the
500
limit
casos
of
hacia arriba
500 or
en
more
esta
cases is represented
perspectiva
by
de
the
epidemia
red.
activa son
And we have
solamente
four
4 estados
states,
los que
states
mantienen
that
niveles
have that
todavía
burden of disease, that
importantes de casos y los
significant
podemos ver
burden.
representados también en los
And we
colores
can see that
señalados.
reflected in the
En la
colors
siguiente
on the map.
diapositiva, similar a la
Here's the
anterior,
same
veremos que es
information. This is
la
the
distribución en orden
distribution
descendente
in
para que ustedes
ascending
puedan rápidamente
order presented
identificar
as
los
a bar
valores
graph.
totales para
You can
cada
see
una de
for
estas
each state
entidades.
how many
La siguiente
confirmed
diapositiva
active
veremos
cases
ahora
they
sí la
have there.
distribución por tasa de
Here's the
incidencia
cumulative
acumulada también por
incidence
100.000
rate per
habitantes,
100,000
pero de la
people.
epidemia
And this is for
activa
the
en
active
México. El
pandemic in
color más
Mexico.
oscuro representa
The
mayor
darker color
tasa de
represents a higher
incidencia, la escala
incidence
más
rate.
grande que tienen
We
dos
have that
estados
in
que se
two
pueden identificar
states that we can
sin ningún
identify
problema
quickly on the
en el
map.
mapa. Tabasco,
Mexico
Ciudad de México
City,
es
that's
arriba de 20
over
por 100.000
20 per
habitantes. Los
100,000
demás tienen
inhabitants,
menos
and the
de
rest of
esa
our
escala.
states have
Y
fewer
bueno,
cases
esto
than
va
that. So
incrementándose también a
that is
medida que los casos en
increasing
los últimos 14
according
días
to the
se mantienen
cases in the
activos, es
last
decir, que la
14 days that
transmisión en
continue
estas
to be
entidades
active.
federativas continúe, se mantenga activa y por lo tanto
So
se
when
incrementen los
in
casos
these
en esta
states they
tasa
have more
global.
active
En la
cases, the
siguiente
transmission
diapositiva
rate is
veremos también
higher.
la tasa de
Here we
incidencia
can see
acumulada,
the cumulative
pero ahora en
incidence
orden
rate
descendente
presented
para
as a bar
identificar
graph.
cuáles son
Here
esas
you can
entidades
see which
federativas que además
states,
cambian de
besides
posición en
having
relación a la
changed a
carga de
little bit
enfermedad o que esto tiene
relative
una
to
base
others depending on the burden
poblacional
of
y es
disease, this shows you that we have
7.86
a
la tasa de incidencia
7.86%
nacional de la
incidence rate
epidemia
per
activa en
100,000
México.
people
En la
for
siguiente
the
diapositiva
active pandemic in Mexico.
veremos la distribución
Here
de
you
las
can take a look
lamentables
at the distribution for the
4.477 defunciones
unfortunate
que hasta el momento han
4,477
ocurrido, que
deaths.
tienen un
These are
resultado
people
positivo que
who have
confirma
confirmed,
que la
have a
enfermedad que
confirmed
provoca el
laboratory positive result
COVID-19, ya
as
que se
being
logró evidenciar al virus
COVID-19.
SARS-CoV-2 y así
You can
también en
also
color
see
naranja claro
in
vemos que
yellow, we have
220 defunciones
420
que todavía
suspected
están esperando un
deaths where we
resultado
are
de
waiting
esa
for
muestra
their
que
results
ingresó
from labs
a un proceso
so
en
that
alguno de
we
los
will be able to
laboratorios de toda
confirm
la
or
red
deny
nacional
that
de
death as
laboratorios de salud
being
pública que
caused by
opera
COVID.
en México. En la siguiente diapositiva
Here
vemos
we can
esta misma
see
carga
the
de defunciones ahora
same burden
distribuida
of
por
death
entidad
here,
federativa donde
represented
ocurrieron
by
y así
state
también
where the
aquellas
death
entidades
occurred.
federativas en donde podemos
And we can
todavía esperar en
get
los
an
siguientes
idea of
días
what
más
we have ahead
confirmación
of us
de
in the next couple
defunciones
of days
asociadas
in
al
terms of deaths
COVID-19.
associated with
La
COVID
siguiente
19.
diapositiva veremos la
Here
curva
we can see the
epidémica, la
pandemic
actualizamos
curve.
todos
We
los días en
update
la medida
this
como van
every day.
ingresando
As
nuevos
soon as we
casos
get new
sospechosos, que es en
suspected
naranja
deaths,
claro,
we
y cómo
register
se
them
van
here.
también
Those are in
confirmando
yellow.
nuevos
And as we
casos
have
de
more confirmed cases
COVID-19.
of COVID
La ponemos
19, we have that
en
in
barras
maroon.
azuladas para que
This is
independientemente de
so
si
that
son
whether they're
confirmados, que es el color
confirmed or
guinda o
not,
rojo
if
oscuro,
they're maroon or
o son
yellow,
todavía
we can
sospechosos
see who's
esperando un
actually
resultado, que es el
been
color naranja
confirmed as
claro,
having
podamos
died
más
from
bien
COVID.
ver cuál es
But the
la
yellow is showing
tendencia, es
us what
decir,
is
la
the
cantidad
tendency, what is the
de casos
trend
que se
of
siguen
how many
acumulando
cases are
día con día
accumulating day
y
by
que esto
day.
es obviamente todavía
This
una
is
tendencia
obviously an
ascendente que se
upward
mantiene desde
trending
que inició
tendency,
la
which is what
epidemia.
has happened since this
La
pandemic
siguiente
began in
diapositiva
Mexico.
veremos ahora sí la
Here
carga
is the
acumulada de
cumulative
los
burden of disease of those
42.595, manteniendo
42,595
prácticamente la
cases.
tendencia que hemos
This
tenido
is the
durante
trend
toda
that we have had
la
throughout the
epidemia
whole
en México.
pandemic in Mexico.
Importante
But I
resaltar
would like to
que los
highlight
casos
that the
confirmados en los
confirmed
últimos
cases over the last
24 horas, ahora
24
sí superamos
hours
la barrera de los
have gone
2.000, es la
over
primera vez que lo hacemos
2,000,
y lo hacemos de
which
hecho
that is
con
the first time that there have been so many.
2.409 casos,
We
dado
have
que los casos
2,409
acumulados
now.
han ido
So those have been
incrementándose.
increasing,
Estos
and
nuevos
these
casos
new confirmed
confirmados
cases
representan
represent
solo un 6% de lo que
6%
se tenía
of what had been
acumulado de
accumulated
manera anterior y
from the
podemos
day
ver
before.
claramente en las
And we
barras
can clearly
naranjas
see
que
with
precisamente
the
esta
orange
barra
bars,
de la
as you
conferencia de
can
hoy que
see with the
representa
orange bar with today's date. That is the highest bar that we've ever
todos
had
demás
uh,
días en donde se han estado
from every single day that we've
confirmando
been
casos.
confirming cases.
En las siguientes
On
diapositivas
our
vemos
next
precisamente ahora
slides,
la
we'll
disponibilidad
take
y
a
la
look at
ocupación
availability and
hospitalaria.
occupancy rates at
97%
hospitals.
la tasa de
97%
notificación con
is the
corte al día de
notification rate
ayer a la
for
medianoche,
hospitals. That cutoff
708 de
time
740
was midnight
hospitales
last
COVID
night.
que están
We have
notificando hasta
COVID
ayer.
hospitals that are
Nos dijeron
notifying
que hay
us, and they have notified us that
14.508
there are
camas IRAG general
14,508
disponibles
IRAG
y que
beds available
7.946 camas
and
IRAG están ocupadas. Por lo tanto, el
7,946
porcentaje de
are
ocupación es del
occupied. So the
95%, se
occupancy rate
incrementó
is
en un punto
35%. That
porcentual
went
del
up
día de ayer para
1%
hoy
from
la
yesterday to
ocupación
today. And
hospitalaria
here
de
we're
camas
talking about
generales.
occupancy
Si
rates
vemos la
for
distribución
general
de esta
beds.
ocupación o disponibilidad en el territorio nacional, que es la siguiente
Our next
diapositiva,
slide takes a
vemos
look
cómo el
at occupancy
75%
rates
se
by
distribuye de
state, and
manera
you can see how
diferente
there's a
en
little
cada
bit
una
of
de
a
las entidades,
difference
mientras
among
que hay
states
al
here.
menos la mitad o más de las, un
States
poco más
have
de
a
la mitad
little
de las
bit
entidades
over
todavía tienen una
50%.
gran
Other
disponibilidad,
states
gran
have a
disponibilidad
lot
de
of
servicios de
availability.
camas, pues hemos
But we've
estado
been
dando
following up
seguimiento
on
puntual a
this
entidades
constantly
federativas como la
and
Ciudad de México, el
daily.
Estado de México,
The state of
Baja
Mexico,
California,
Mexico
Guerrero,
City,
Veracruz,
Baja
Sinaloa,
California,
que tienen en
Veracruz,
su
we
momento
can see that they
el
have
40% o
40%
más
or
de
higher
ocupación, ¿no?
occupancy
Lo que quiere
rates.
decir que
That
lo que falta
doesn't
o poco de
mean that they don't
disponibilidad.
have availability.
Recordando que esto también
Remember that
cambia día con
changes
día,
daily.
ya hay
And there's
siempre
always
una
going to be an
ecuación que se va
equation
dando
that we
del
are
número
going to
de
have to
pacientes
look
que van
at
egresando
that shows us
y
the
las
difference
camas que se
between
van
patients that
reconvirtiendo
are
o
being admitted to
expandiendo
the
para
hospital
generar
and
mayor capacidad y
beds that
por
are
eso
being made
importante este
available so
monitoreo
that more patients can
que
fill them.
más allá de poder sí presentar los números en esta
We
conferencia
we
para
do
invitarlos
always want to
también a
share
la
this
población,
information with you
este monitoreo
and
va a
let you
estar
know that
mira
this
realmente
monitoring
está
for the
operando
IRAG
de manera
network
diaria en las entidades
is
federativas con personal
being
que
done
vigila y monitorea esta
by
situación
professionals who
precisamente
are
para
on top
poder
of this all the
contribuir
time
rápidamente,
and
uno,
making
a
sure
definir y
that they
reorientar
know what beds
recursos,
being occupied so
tanto de
that they can move
ventiladores como de
resources
camas,
like
como de personal,
ventilators,
como de
healthcare
insumos
professionals,
en las entidades
supplies,
federativas en donde
or
se debe de
monitors
incrementar
and
la
move those
capacidad,
to areas where they
pero
are more
también
needed.
en el tema de la
But also in
transferencia o el
terms of
traslado de
transferring
pacientes que
patients
necesitan
among
estas camas
hospitals
entre las unidades
who
que las
need them,
ocupan.
that's why this
En la
information
siguiente y
is so
última
important.
diapositiva
On the
vemos también
next
esta
slide, we see the
distribución, pero ahora
same
enfocadas a las
distribution
camas
focused
críticas,
on critically
aquellas que se
ill
utilizan para
patients.
atender a los
These
pacientes
are for
más
patients who are
graves,
in a
aquellos que
critically ill
requieren de un
state and who
ventilador
are needing
mecánico
a
porque hay
ventilator
una
because
falla
they have
pulmonar y bueno,
serious
29% es
lung
la ocupación
problems.
a nivel
This is our
nacional e
occupancy rate
igual vemos cómo se distribuye en
nationally.
las
So you can
diferentes
see how
entidades
it
federativas,
varies
siendo
among
también la
states,
Ciudad de
but you can
México,
see that
Sinaloa, el
Mexico,
Estado de
Sinaloa,
México
State of
y Baja
Mexico, and
California
Baja
las que mantienen una
California
ocupación por encima del
have
40%
occupancy rates at over
y
40%.
que gracias a la
But thanks so
reconversión y
much to the
expansión de las que
retrofitting for
acabamos
hospitals that we
de
did
mencionar, pues
and
tanto Ciudad de México, Sinaloa
retrofitting,
y México
we can see that
han
Mexico
podido sumamente
City has
incrementar
been able to
la
increase
disponibilidad
availability
de
for
este
these
tipo
types of
de camas
beds,
que son
which of
lógicamente las
course
que se
logically are the
utilizan o deben de
ones that
estar
have
siempre
to be always
disponibles,
available
sobre todo
because those
cuando
are the ones
estamos
that we
en la
need,
mayor expresión
especially
de
when
la
we're at
epidemia,
the
es
almost
decir, en el AME
peak
o en el
of
pico,
this
como ha sido el
pandemic.
caso de ya algunas de estas entidades federativas. Sería la
That is my
actualización
update
por el día
for
de hoy.
today. Thank you,
Gracias,
Dr.
doctor Alamía.
Alomia.
Doctor
Dr.
Ricardo
Ricardo
Cortés,
Cortes,
tenemos la
would you
palabra.
please take the floor?
Muchas
Thank you.
gracias,
Thank you,
subsecretario. Muy buenas
Deputy
tardes a
Secretary.
todas y
Good
todos, sobre
evening
todo
to everyone. Above
en
all, to
casa,
those of you at home,
todas y todas y todos los que nos están
all
viendo
of you who are
desde
watching us
su
from your
televisor,
television,
dispositivo
your
móvil,
mobile device, your
tablet,
tablet,
computadora,
computer,
lo que sea.
whatever,
Muy
welcome. You're
bienvenidos,
also
muchas
welcome.
gracias.
Thank you.
Vamos a
Here we're
ver
going
la
to take a look
actualización
at the
semanal
weekly
de las
update for
múltiples
the
herramientas que tenemos
multiple
de
tools
contacto
that we
con la
have for
ciudadanía
outreach.
para abrir estos canales de
And these are
comunicación. Uno
outreach
de los
tools to
principales que ya
open the
hemos
communication
hablado es
channels.
la
The first one that
página
we have
web
is the
creada
website that
específicamente
we
para este
created specifically
efecto, que es
for this. And this is
www.coronavirus.gov.mx. Al corte
www.coronavirus.gov.mx.
de hoy tenemos
Today,
un
we have a
total de
total of
más
more
de
than
17
17 and a
millones y
half
medio
million
de
people
personas que han
who have gone
ingresado,
to
diferentes
the
personas,
website.
son
And
usuarios,
these
es
are
importante, son
distinct people. These are different
17.5 millones de
people.
personas diferentes que han entrado
These are
a
the
nuestra
people who
página
have
web,
visited
el
our
96% de ellos
website.
dentro de nuestro
96% of them
territorio
have done it
nacional
from
y el
Mexico, and
4% fuera
4%
de
have done it from
territorio mexicano. El
outside of
segundo lugar
Mexico.
es con un alrededor de
We
2%
also have
que
2% of people who are visiting our website from the United
Este
States.
número de personas,
This number of people,
17 millones y medio
17
de
and a
personas,
half
han
million,
entrado, han
have
visitado
visited our
un
website
total de 37.3
37.3
millones
million
de
times.
visitas a la página www.gov.mx.
www.coronavirus.gov.mx.
Importante también el hecho
Let
o
me
el
also
dato
highlight
histórico
this
de presentar
historic
datos abiertos
information
nominales anonimizados
representing
para que la
the
comunidad
anonymous
y la
information that we
ciudadanía
are
y
registering.
ustedes también como profesionales de la
You,
comunicación
as
puedan
media professionals
descargar
and
la base de
everyone, can
datos
download the
abierta
open
y
database
hacer
and
análisis
analyze the
que pueden
information that is
servir
there.
para
And
su
you could
trabajo
use
como
that for
profesionales de la
your
comunicación o
as media
también para la
professionals,
comunidad que
or you
analiza estos
can share
datos
this
y
information with
puede
whoever you like. You
hacer
can do
estudios,
studies with
puede
this, you can
escribir
write articles,
artículos
scientific
científicos y
articles
al
on
final de
it,
cuentas pueden también
and
servir
that
para
could
la toma
also
de
help
decisiones
in decision
tanto a
making
nivel
nationally
nacional como a
and
nivel
internationally.
internacional. Esta página de datos
This
abiertos
open
COVID-19
information website
que
for
nos apoya
COVID-19 is
CONACYT
supported
para
by
mantenerla y para
CONACYT,
hacer estos
and they
análisis,
help us
ha
with
tenido
these
un total de
analysis
visitas de
analyses.
3.3
They're helping
millones
us with all of these
de descargas
3.3
de la base de
million
datos,
downloads
visitas,
of the
análisis
database
de los
and
mapas,
database, and it
porque
also
esto es
helps with
importante
for
porque
people who are
también
downloading the
cuando
maps.
damos, como lo expliqué
As I
en otra
explained
ocasión,
on
para quien lo
another
haya visto,
occasion,
lo esté viendo por
but I
primera
want
vez,
to explain for people who are seeing this
en
for the
los
first time. In the
comparativos podemos
comparisons,
ver
you can
mapas, un
see
mapa
one
de
map of
México
Mexico
en donde
where we
podemos
can
seleccionar
select two
dos
or
o tres
three
estados
states,
y se
and then we can
grafican
see them represented
enseñados
as a
los datos
graphic.
de un estado con otro
And
para
we can see
hacer las
states
comparaciones
represented
que cada
and
uno
compared
quiera
among themselves
realizar.
there. So that's one tool that we have.
El tráfico hacia la página
Now, the traffic for visitors
www.coronavirus.gov.mx
to this
llega a
website,
través de
how do
diferentes
we receive
medios.
this? We
Por
receive it from
ejemplo,
different
a
media.
través
We get it
de
from
YouTube
YouTube.
han llegado un
We've
total de
gotten
4.7 millones
4.7
de personas, a
million
través de
people
Facebook
from there, from
2.8 millones
Facebook
y así a través
2.7
de
million.
diferentes
So you can see here from
aplicaciones
different
o en la búsqueda
applications,
directa en
or
los
also people
diferentes
who are searching with
buscadores de
different
Internet que existen en
search
el mundo.
engines.
La siguiente, por favor. Tenemos en la
On our
página
website,
www.coronavirus.gov.mx es una sección
www.coronavirus.gov.mx, we
sobre
also have
salud materna.
information
El
on
Centro Nacional de
mother's
Cuidados en la
health,
Salud
maternal
Reproductiva, a través
health.
de su directora
And this
general,
is
que ya
information you
conocen,
know
la
very
doctora
well.
Carla
Dr.
Gavichevsky,
Korora
se ha dado
Vicheski,
cuenta
she
con
has
el
supported
análisis
us with
de
this
información y
information
el reporte
and with the report
importante,
there.
el
The
reporte
report,
de los
very
estados
important. This is for
que los
states,
servicios
each state, and
de
it tells
salud
you about
materna
maternal
han
health
dejado
and how you can access that.
de
State,
utilizarse
it's very
y
important
esto
to use
es
this.
importante porque sabemos
It's
que las
important
personas
because we know that pregnant
embarazadas,
women,
las mujeres embarazadas que
we
puedan
know that
enfermar
they
de
can get sick with
coronavirus están en un
coronavirus
mayor
and
riesgo
then
de
they
presentar
have a
complicaciones.
higher risk
Entonces,
of developing complications.
esta
So
sección
this
del
part
sitio
of the
se
website
diseña
is
para otorgar
designed to
más
give more
información, para saber a
information
dónde se
for
pueden
women
acercar,
who are
a dónde
pregnant,
pueden llamar. Hay que
for
recordar que el número
example, where they
también
can call
ochocientos materna que
1-800
sirve para
MATERNA,
reportar
and
casos
also so that they can report
personas
cases of people
embarazadas
who are
graves que
pregnant
están
and they're in
que
serious
requieren
condition,
de una
that they
atención
need
inmediata a su
immediate
salud para
health
evitar
professionals to
una
help them out so that
mortalidad
they don't
materna. La
die.
siguiente, por favor. El chatbot
We
de
also
Susana
have the
Distancia
Susanna
a
Safe
través
Distance
de
chatbot.
la
The
aplicación de
WhatsApp, she's
WhatsApp
on the WhatsApp
ha
application,
recibido
and she
mensajes
has
de
received
173.930 personas
173,000
con un total de
messages and she has also
3.163.143
responded
mensajes
3.1
respondidos y
million
manteniendo
times.
una satisfacción
People we
de más
see
del
have been
70%
satisfied and have a
en las
satisfied
respuestas que se reciben de los
percentage of over
mensajes. La siguiente,
70%
por
with
favor.
her messages and answers.
El impacto
The
que tenemos
impact
en redes sociales,
on that we have on social
comunicados
media, we
técnicos
have
que se
technical
emiten a
information that we
través
have been
del
releasing
video que
through
nos
video,
apoya la
and we
vocería de
have this
Presidencia de la
through
República para
our
realizarlos.
spokesperson for
Lo
the
impactado, el
presidency
del 8
for
de
public
mayo,
information.
han sido
This has
vistos
been seen
por
by
más de
more than
23
23
millones de
million
personas.
people.
COVID y embarazo,
COVID and
hablando de lo
pregnancy,
que
talking
vimos
about
hace
what we
una
saw just one
diapositiva.
slide ago.
El pasado 9
Well,
de febrero fue el
February
Día
19th
Nacional de
was
la
the
Salud
National
Materno-Perinatal
Day of
y se ha
Maternal
hecho
Health.
comunicación también sobre
And
cuál es la
so
relación
we've been talking
entre
a lot about
maternar el
the
COVID, embarazzo y
connection
COVID y los
between being
riesgos.
pregnant during this
Esto
COVID
implica
time. What are the
más de 17
symptoms
millones de
and
personas
consequences for
revisaron
having COVID
esta
if you're
publicación
so that
particularmente. La
publication
conferencia de prensa del 11 de mayo
particularly
alcanzó a más de 15
has
millones de
been seen
personas
by many, many
y a
people, more
través
than
de
15,000
Twitter,
people on the day we released the
el
press
comunicado
conference about it.
técnico, la
The technical
conferencia de prensa del
report
10 de
that
mayo, la pregunta
was
del doctor
from
Gatell
May
con las
10th,
mamás y la conferencia
and then we
del
also
6 de
have the
mayo
May
con
6th
sus
press
totales de personas
conference, and we had
alcanzadas
169,000 people who viewed that
en
particular
esas
report
dos plataformas que
on
son
these
Facebook
platforms,
y
which are
Twitter.
Facebook and
La
Twitter.
aplicación, la app COVID,
Our application, COVID
medio 19
19
MX, que lanzamos
MX,
ya
we
hace
launched
un
that a
tiempo
while
y
ago.
que a través de un contacto
This is
con
citizen outreach
Santander y
that
BBVA
was
se
supported by
mejoró la seguridad y lo que
BBVA
se
and the bank
conocen, lo que
Santander.
conocen los ingenieros como el look and feel,
And this,
o
we
sea,
got support
está
from
más bonita la aplicación,
engineers who helped us
tiene una
with
mejor
its
visibilidad,
visibility, with how it
tiene una
looks,
mejor
its
seguridad.
design. Now
Se
it's more
utiliza ahora
safe.
un mensaje
People send an
SMS
SMS
para,
message, text message,
para que se
and that way
asegure
they
que
can
es la misma
ensure that the
persona que está
same person
utilizando
who is
el
using the
dispositivo
application is
quien
the
está
same person who
solicitando
is asking
ingreso.
to get into the
Ahora
application. So there's
tenemos un
a
total
higher
de
security there.
37,000 personas que
And
han
about
decidido
37,000
otorgar sus
people have
datos
decided to
personales a
enter their
través de esta
personal
aplicación
information
y
into
que
this
nos han dicho
application.
cuáles son
And
sus
they have told us
comorbilidades
what
para
their
poder
risk factors
darles la mejor
are so that they can
información.
get the
En
best
total,
information.
el 30% de estas
And a
personas
percentage of these
dicen o
people have
refieren
said that
vivir con
they
obesidad.
are
Lo que
obese,
está
30%
entre
of them.
paréntesis es el
This
dato
information
de la
is
prevalencia de
for
la
how
enfermedad, la
prevalent
prevalencia de
obesity
obesidad en
is in
México, en
Mexico in
adultos, en
adults.
la ENSANUD, en la Encuesta Nacional de
And we
Salud y
got this
Nutrición
information from the
2018.
2018
Y por
National
pensiones
Survey on
referido
Health
el
and Wellness.
13%, el dato
We
de la
also
Encuesta
have
Nacional de Salud y Nutrición
the
es del
information from
18.4%.
that very same
Diabetes nos
report.
han reportado, de estas
18,000% of people have
37
high
mil
blood pressure,
personas, nos han reportado un
and
7.8%
7.8% have
y comparado con
diabetes.
ENSANUD es el 10%. Mujeres
Pregnant
embarazadas
women,
seguimos
we're still
reportando un
reporting on
dato de menos del
information from them,
1%
which is
de
fewer than
personas en
1%
estado de
of people
embarazo
who are
que
pregnant
han
and who
otorgado y
have
han
entered
utilizado la
their
aplicación.
personal information into this
Hay
application.
muchas más personas que han
There are many
descargado
other
la
people who have
aplicación
downloaded
de las
this
que
application.
tienen la
Many
confianza
more than
de
the people
utilizarla,
who
de
trust
otorgar
the application enough to
sus datos para
register
darle
personal
seguimiento.
information there.
Invito a todas y
But I
todos
would
a
like
utilizar
to cordially
la
invite you to
aplicación que
use
ya
this
descargaron.
application.
Miren la
The
cantidad
people
de
who have
descargas
downloaded
que
it,
llevamos
look how
por cada
many
sistema
people we
operativo
have who have
y
downloaded
para que
this.
la
Use
utilicen
it.
y tengan la confianza
Trust
de que sus
us.
datos
Your
están
information
protegidos
is safe
por
with
la
us. It's
ley.
protected by the law.
Esta aplicación también la
And we
hemos
have developed this
desarrollado con el
application
apoyo y el
with the
sustento del
support
Instituto Nacional de
from
Acceso
the
a la
National
Información
Institute for Access to
y
Information.
sus datos
Your
están protegidos y
information
van
is
a servir
protected,
para
and
poder tomar
it's going to help us
mejores
make better
decisiones.
decisions.
La
Next,
siguiente, por
please.
favor. El número 800
800
0044 800
0044
800
800. In the last
ha
couple of
recibido
days, we've
o recibió
received a
un
total
total
of
de 34.193 llamadas,
34,193 phone
de las
calls.
cuales
Of those
2.401 solicitaron
2,401
información
people,
básica de
those
COVID, que
2,401
como ya lo he
people
comentado,
asked for
también la
basic
pueden
information
obtener
on
a
COVID.
través de la
We want
página
to
de
remind you
internet,
that that information
pero
is also on the
tenemos otros
website.
canales de
But we
comunicación
also have
como el
other
teléfono
communication
o el
channels like
chatbot de
the
Susana
chatbot,
Distancia.
telephone.
16.105 personas se reportaron
16,105
como con
people
síntomas
called and reported that
de
they thought they
sospecha
had
de COVID.
symptoms of COVID.
2.100 personas refirieron tener
2,100 people
o
said that
autodenominarse
they
como con
had serious
síntomas graves
symptoms
y
of
se
COVID,
derivaron al número
and they were
911.
sent to
Y un total
911.
de
And then in
2.907
total,
personas buscaron
2,907 people
marcaron este
called
teléfono
the telephone and
buscando
they were looking
una
for
ayuda
emotional support.
emocional y se derivaron
And
a
we
la línea
sent
de la
them
vida
to
que
the
también pueden
lifeline, which we
marcar
have told you
de
about, and they
forma
can just
directa.
call
La siguiente, por
directly
favor,
to that line.
si hay alguna, es la
This is the
última.
last one.
Muchísimas
Okay, thank you
gracias.
so much. Thank you, Dr. Ricardo Cortes. Let's now go to the Q&A period. Before we do, I want to take a moment to give my heartfelt thanks to two colleagues. We are always aware of how important their work is. Over here to my left, you would have seen a little red square, and these are our Mexican Sign Language interpreters, and they're doing an amazing job. They're so professional, and this is so useful so that this press conference can reach people who need a sign language interpreter. This is Magali Guzman and Gloria de la Parra. Thank you so much, interpreters. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please applaud. Applaud for our interpreters. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Gracias. Bueno, vamos a
Okay,
empezar.
let's start.
Por favor,
Bianca Aguirre,
con
Notimex. Carlos. Then you.
y usted.
Thank you, doctor.
Doctor,
Good
buenas
evening.
noches. Bueno, pues
Well, I
quiero
wanted to
preguntarle
ask you with
referente al
reference
plan
to
de la
the
nueva
new
normalidad.
normal plan.
Doctor, ¿no será muy
Wouldn't it
precipitado
be a
tomar
little
esta
bit
decisión,
early to be
dado que
making
estamos en la
this
etapa
decision
donde
since
hay
we're
más
in the
altos
phase where
contagios
we have the
y
highest
un
rate of
plan de la nueva
contagion?
normalidad
I mean, this new
significaría
normal plan
estar en
means that we
escenarios de
would be
aglomeraciones?
in big
Por favor.
crowds,
Muchas
doesn't
gracias.
it?
Gracias
Thank
por la
you.
pregunta.
Thank you for that
Quiero
question.
aprovecharla para
This is a good moment for me
puntualizar
to
algunos elementos
expand a
antes
little
de,
bit
desde luego,
on
responderla de
these
manera
points and also to
explícita.
explicitly answer your question.
Cuando hemos tenido
Since we've
cambios
had
en el proceso
changes
de
our
durante la
process
pandemia
during the
en México,
pandemic in Mexico,
cambios de
we've
intervenciones,
changed the
tanto de
actions that were
prevención como de
taken, like
control como de vigilancia,
prevention, monitoring,
siempre los anunciamos
but we
desde
always
la
tell
fecha,
you
desde
ahead
el
of
28 de
time.
enero.
That's what
Durante
we've
las
done.
fases previas, el
Just
primer
like
caso,
before
luego cuando
phase one,
tuvimos el
just
primer
like before
caso,
we had the
luego
first
cuando
case
entramos
and we were
formalmente en
formally
toda la
getting
fase
into
1,
phase one,
cuando
we
íbamos a
told
pasar a la
you
2,
this is
cuando
what's going to
íbamos a
happen
pasar a la
phase
fase
two,
3,
this is when we're
etc.
going to get to phase
Y
three.
ahora estamos
Now
anunciando desde
we
este
are making an
momento
announcement to
cumbre
you at
de
this
la epidemia,
apex moment
momento
in
cumbre
the
porque estamos en el
pandemic,
punto de
apex
más
moment because we're at the
rápida
highest
presentación de casos
transmission
nuevos
rate.
y
We're at the highest
consecuentemente
presentation
de
of
casos
new
o de personas que
cases of
requieren
people who need to be
hospitalizarse
hospitalized right now.
y consecuentemente de
So
un
that
reto mayor
means
sobre
we
el
have the
Sistema Nacional de
highest, we
Salud,
have the
la capacidad
serious
hospitalaria
challenge to our health
y
system right
consecuentemente
now. And
también
in
por
consequence,
esta
because of
velocidad
that
de
speed of
presentación de
how many
personas
new
enfermas
people are
que a su vez
being
es traducción de los contagios de 7
infected
días atrás,
each day and transmitting the virus to
de
more and more,
funcionar.
that means that we have more and more deaths.
Entonces,
So
quisiera
I do want to
contextualizar mi
put this all into
respuesta en esto,
context.
dirigiéndome a
I
la
want to talk
sociedad.
to you, to the
Este es un
society,
momento
to the
el
people
más
of
difícil
Mexico. This is the
en
most
esta primera ola
difficult
de la
part of this
enfermedad,
first wave of
de
this
la epidemia.
pandemic.
Y no debemos
We
perder de
cannot
vista
lose
el
sight
reto que
of
eso
the
implica,
challenge that is implied.
reconociendo por
We
un
have to
lado, como lo
recognize,
hacemos
on one hand,
frecuentemente,
as we often do,
el
the
trabajo
work, the
dedicado,
dedicated,
comprometido,
solid
solidario del pueblo de
work that the
México,
people of Mexico are
que ha estado
doing
muy consciente
and
en su enorme
been
mayoría de este
present
reto desde la
since
fase 2,
phase two,
cuando
when we
nos
started to
empezamos
really emphasize
quédate en casa. Todos
stay
estos
at
días que
home.
hemos
Every
enfatizado
day we have
quédate en casa
emphasized
y que se
this.
han quedado en casa, a pesar de las grandes
Besides
dificultades que implica quedarse en casa
the
cuando
difficulties that this
se tiene
implies,
que salir a
you
conseguir
have
el
to go
sustento
out and you need
diario,
to get paid
como
daily.
comentábamos
I
extensamente ayer.
understand.
La otra cosa que quiero también poner
One
en
other thing that I
perspectiva
want to bring into
es
perspective as well
el
is that
significado
the
del sufrimiento
meaning,
humano
the meaning of
en las
human
personas enfermas,
suffering of people
en
who are
sus
sick,
familias
for
y
their
desde luego
families,
en las
and also
familias que
to
pierden a un
people
ser
who
querido.
lose a loved one. This is
Es
a
un sufrimiento
suffering
verdaderamente
that is
eh,
truly
muy grande, difícil de
it's
describir. Yo
hard.
creo que no hay
There's no
palabras para
way
describirlo,
to
pero uno lo
describe
siente.
it.
Tenga
It's
cualquier
very
edad,
profound.
tenga o no
It's very
enfermedades,
profound.
haya sido relativamente cercano o no tan cercano. Entonces,
So
debemos estar
we
también
have been
compartiendo esa
we've been sharing
experiencia con un ánimo de
the
respeto, de
experiences
solidaridad
with a feeling
y
of
de compasión
compassion,
hacia las familias que
solidarity
sufren
for the
esa
families who
situación.
are going through this.
¿Por qué digo
Why
todo
am I
esto?
telling you
Por
all
varias
this? There are a
razones.
couple
La
of
primera es
reasons.
porque
The
cuando
first
uno
one is because
presenta una información como
when
esta,
we show information like
vamos a
this, it tells
transitar
you that we are
eventualmente a
going to
una
transition
nueva
to a
normalidad.
new
Esto puede
normal.
resultar
And
importantemente
this can be very
impactante
worrisome
para las
for
personas que sufren,
people
para
who are
los que se han sentido
suffering, for
heridos o
people
se
who
han
have
sentido heridos,
lost their
para
loved
la sociedad en su
ones.
conjunto,
All of this together is
que
just too
está
much.
consciente de
They're
lo que está
aware of
ocurriendo
what's
y
going
que
on,
tiene
and
un
there's
temor
a fear that is
absolutamente
totally
legítimo,
legitimate
absolutamente
and
comprensible
understandable.
de ser
And
parte de
that's
la
of having
enfermedad,
been
sufrir
part
la
of the
enfermedad
pandemic, of
por ver
having
que sus
suffered from
seres
COVID,
queridos
or
la
having
sufren.
had their family members or
Estamos
loved ones
conscientes de eso.
suffer. And we're
¿Por qué
very
creemos
aware
que
of
es
that. Why
importantísimo
do we
anunciar,
believe it's
como lo
so
hemos hecho en
important to
cada
make
momento, con
announcements
antelación
ahead
las
of time?
cosas? Precisamente, y aquí
This is
empiezo a
where I'm going to
responder
start
a su
answering your question.
preocupación, que
I
sé que
know
muchos
that
de
it's
ustedes
not
están
your question. I
preocupados,
know everyone's worried. Mexican society is
porque hay que
worried.
prepararnos.
Well, we have to prepare ourselves.
No podemos
We
estar
cannot be in a
perpetuamente en este
perpetual
estado
cycle
de
of
confinamiento,
confinement.
por lo que
And
también
we
hemos
have
explicado
explained
repetidamente
again and
las
again the
consecuencias
consequences, the
adversas que tiene en otros
adverse
sentidos,
consequence,
no menos humanos, no
not
menos
less
importantes.
important.
Las personas que
Not that
están
people who are
sufriendo una
suffering are
adversidad
less
económica
important, not, but people are
importantísima,
really suffering because they don't have
que
money.
llevan
They don't
semanas, que llevan
have
meses sin
anything.
tener
They
su
haven't
fuente
had
de
their
sustento, y
source
no solamente
of
la parte
money, of how to
económica, de
make
tener
money.
una percepción que les
And they
permita
haven't been
comprar
able
los
to
alimentos,
buy
sino que se han
food.
perturbado las vidas de todas las
People's
personas que
lives have
estamos viviendo en este
seriously
país.
been affected.
Ahora aquí
I want to
aprovecho
take
la pregunta
advantage
para
of
hacer
your question
aclaraciones,
here to make
puntualizaciones
a
de
couple
cosas
of
que podrían estarse
clarifications there in case
confundiendo.
people are confused.
La primera
The
es,
first thing is
no
that we're
vamos a
not going to
abrir
open
mañana,
everything tomorrow or
ni hoy.
today.
La
Our
Jornada
national
Nacional de Sana
safe
Distancia le
distance
quedan
campaign
todavía
still has
17
19
días
days to go.
para llegar al
That's
término que
when
se
we are
planteaba como
going
fecha
to wrap up
referencial de
the
término,
Susanna Safe
que es el
Distance
mes de mayo,
campaign because that's what we're doing for all of May.
para poder llegar con
In
suficiente
order
tranquilidad,
to
me
have
refiero a la
a
confianza
peaceful transition
basada en
and
la
also for
evidencia,
people to trust the
basada en las
information that we're
predicciones,
giving
basada en el
based
cuidadoso
on very
análisis de la
careful
información
analysis,
todos los días,
mathematical predictions, and scientific
de que no vamos a
information.
tener
We
un
do
riesgo
not want to
mayor,
have a
severo, sustantivo,
higher
significativo de que
significant
reemerja la
risk
epidemia,
of a
tenemos que prepararnos.
resurgence. And in
Y eso
order
lo que
to
implica es que
keep that
exactamente
sewn up,
ahorita que
we
estamos en
have to
el
be right on top of
acné, en
this.
el punto
We're
máximo de la
hitting the
epidemia, en
maximum
la cumbre de
apex
la
of the
curva
pandemic
epidémica,
curve.
no
We
podemos
cannot
rebajar las
relax
medidas.
measures right now.
¿Qué
What
notamos?
have we
Pues
noticed?
asociativo, ya lo
What have we
veremos
noticed?
en
We'll
el
see
informe
this
formal
informal
de la
information,
movilidad
like
y el
in the
espacio
mobility
público
report
presentado
by
próximamente el doctor
Dr.
Ricardo
Ricardo
Cortés
Cortés
cuando se
when
recopile la
he
nueva
gets all that
información.
new information
Pero
together for us.
apreciativamente
But what
notamos
we have
que
been able to
con solo
observe
haber
is that just
anunciado
having
o
announced
coincidente con el haber anunciado
the
la
next
siguiente fase
phase
de
of
reapertura, de
reopening
restablecimiento,
our
de regreso
economy
a la
and going
nueva
back to
normalidad,
into easing into a new
posiblemente hubo
normal, I
un
think people did
relajamiento
relax
y
measures.
entonces hubo
And so there
gente que
were
salió
people
a la
who
vía
did go out in
pública,
public,
quizá asumiendo
and maybe these people
o quizá
thought,
no llegó
or
la
maybe they
información y
didn't get
una
the
vez más, como
information
siempre,
properly.
les
Like I'm
pido
always
ayuda
asking you
a
people at the
ustedes,
media to please
comunicadoras y
help me
comunicadores, a sus
communicate this
medios,
information
para
to
que
people. Please
centren la
concentrate
atención en este negocio.
your
Obviamente con
focus.
absoluta
Please
libertad
do
de
whatever you want,
poner la
write
nota que
whatever you
quieran, hacer
want, do
su
whatever
reel que quieran,
content you
pero
like, but
pido
I'm
ayuda
asking you
a nombre de todo el
please
grupo
on behalf of all
que
of us,
esto nos
please
ayuden a que
help
quede
us be
muy
very
claro.
clear.
No se
We are
está
not
terminando hoy,
ending the
hoy
safe
14 de mayo, la Jornada Nacional
distance
de Sana
campaign.
Distancia.
We
Nos quedan
still
todavía
have 17
17
days to
días.
go.
Y entrando al tema de la nueva
Now, the
normalidad,
new normal.
retomo el por qué le
Why
llamamos nueva
this up again?
normalidad.
Why
Pero
do we
antes,
say
vuelvo a
new
decir lo que he
normal?
dicho,
Hang on. I want to
el
repeat
éxito
something
que hemos
here. The
tenido,
success
el
that we've been
éxito que hemos tenido como
experiencing
pueblo
as
mexicano
Mexicans
de
in having
reducir la cantidad de
reduced the rate
contagio.
of contagion
Hoy ya lo
compared
que
to
nos
what
hubiera
would have
ocurrido
occurred
si no se
if
hubiera
we
implementado
had
la Jornada Nacional de
put this
Sana
safe
Distancia
distance campaign into place.
es un
It's a
éxito
very
importantísimo
important success
porque
because we
redujimos tres
reduced
cuartas
three
partes de
quarters
la
of
curva
the
epidémica esperada.
pandemic curve that we thought
Y
might
esto nos ha
happen.
permitido
And this has
llegar a este
enabled us to
momento
get to
sumamente
today.
retador,
And this has been
no
so
deja de ser
challenging, and the
retador,
challenge does not wane.
con un sistema de salud
Especially, but we have
expandido que
expanded
pasó,
our
ya he
health
dicho los
system. I've
números,
told you the
de cerca de
numbers,
1.400
even
camas a
thousands more, up to
8.500 camas,
8,500,
con
which we have now,
equipamiento, con
with
personal, con contratación de
people
40,000
with
trabajadores para
health
poder
professionals,
mantener
with
esto.
ventilators,
Porque
and we've
el
hired more
aplanar
health
la curva, el
professionals
reducir la
because
cantidad
we
de
want to
contagios,
reduce the rate of
nos
contagion.
llevó a, como lo
And
hemos
as I have
explicado incluso
explained, even
gráficamente,
in
a lo que la
graphics,
teoría de la salud
this
pública indica,
this
que es
public
desplazar
health
también el momento
theory tells
punta.
us that we
Si lo
need
desplazamos por
to
más de
push it this back,
4
push
semanas
back
tenemos
the peak of the
respecto a donde
pandemic
hubiera
curve.
ocurrido, que era en abril.
So that was, we said it was going to be in April, and now it's in the middle of May. We said the peak was going to be in April, now it's in the middle of May. So we've done a great job. And we can't let that fall by the wayside, because this was such a huge challenge with regard to human life. And we venerate human life and health. And we can't throw this out with the bathwater. The most important thing is that people stay at home. Our new normal does not mean, and this is why I have the qualifying word new,
en términos de varios elementos que ahora retomaremos.
and I will pick up on some of these things that I'm saying later. But we don't want to go back to how we were before the pandemic. The new normal means we have to change our behavior. We have to change what we're doing every day. Our hand hygiene is extremely important. It seems very simple, but if we wash our hands continually 10, 12, 15, 20 times per day, there's no water and we need to use antibacterial gel. This is a hygienic measure that, I mean, we've been doing this for over 200 years, and we know that this is a preventive, universal preventive measure for infectious diseases. So super important. And protecting our sneeze in our elbow. There is evidence that this lowers the transmission rate. And if we're at home and we have symptoms, please stay at home. Even if we're not certain, if we stay at home, that's going to help. What symptoms? Fever, sore throat, all of that. And among all of our measures, as well as safe distance, to stay physical distancing, we have been clear that that is mainly for your airways. This is the healthy distance, 1.5 meters or 2 meters. That's where the saliva is traveling into your eyes, nose, and mouth. It's gonna infect you. Do not use your hands to sneeze into. No. So all of these measures, they seem minor, but they're very important, and they will continue to be very important.
También el proceso de desconfinamiento o de regreso hacia una nueva normalidad implica ser muy cautelosos.
If we are to talk about the safety measures, safe distancing is mainly regarding to safeguard the respiratory tract, keeping your distance 1.5 meters or 2, because that's when the particles travel out and they can reach out eyes, mouth, and throat. Don't use your hands to cover up when you sneeze. Use the corner of your elbow, and measures will continue to be important. Also, deconfinement, reopening, and going back to a new normality entails being very careful in terms of the amount of people that are going to be released into the public space. And that's why we're going to use the stoplights. And we've talked about the stoplight before. It's not that starting the 1st of June we will go back to normality as we knew it. We need to abide by the rules of the stoplight. And with this, I will wrap up my reply. The rules of the stoplight mean that we're going to have a daily monitoring of the progression of the epidemiological curves on the different municipalities and states of this country. And as of right now, we can recognize decreasing trends, for example, in Cancun, Culiacán, Villahermosa, Tijuana. So in these places, right now, people are not allowed to go out to the streets right now, even if their curves are decreasing at this moment, because if they did, the curve would go upwards again, and that's why we need to be very careful in these regions. And monitoring will give room for a good track of the outbreak, and we're going to control this with very precise rules about working activity, professional activity, school activity, and activities in the public space. The use of the public space where we live in. And this entailed pretty much everything: beaches, gardens, parks, supermarkets, museums, and movie theaters, the street itself. All this is important. So then, let me express my sympathy with the concerns. People are concerned because they are thinking we're gonna hit the streets right at this point when the pandemic is at its highest. But it's not going to happen today. This is going to happen in 17 days from now, and we will abide by the stoplights rules. And probably there are going to be restricted activities in different states and cities of Mexico. But right now, the decision will be on the side of health authorities of each one of the states and governors. And obviously, with the counseling and monitoring and guidance of the National Health Authority, the Federal Health Authority, just as the Federal Act on Health states. You and then you. Dr. Gattel, hello. Good evening. Carlos Guzman. I'm just going to ask questions. Concerning your reply to my colleague Bianca, do you have any idea on the municipalities that are going to take up activities as of the 1st of June? I think it's important for you to use this moment because governors will take over as the authorities. Mothers, parents are very concerned about it going back to school. I searched your personal social networks, and you were addressing questions from parents that are very concerned because they fear this possible chaos when kids go back to school. So this is a very important forum. 15 million people are. I think you mentioned that on Wednesday you reached the peak, the audience peak of this press con. 15 million people watched it, and this is an achievement of the whole of Mexico. So could you please address parents who are very alarmed? Thank you very much, Carlos, for your question. First, I'm going to talk about municipalities. We're going to announce them tomorrow. We made that decision because we want extremely careful. We've done assessments on many different levels. We were saying that yesterday. The assistance coming from the Mexican scientific community coordinated by CONACYT. And a big thank you to all of them and to the General Director of CONACYT. The way of approaching risk has to do with at least factors. One, how the epidemic is behaving. Second, the capacity to address the epidemic. I mean, if there is enough infrastructure, personal protective equipment locally, vulnerability. This is a very broad measure with many indicators that have to do with poverty, nourishment, with the prevalence of chronic diseases, age, etc. And of course, the last factor is the potential activity of the epidemic based on mobility in a physical space. So we have different angles from which to attack the subject matter and supplementary analysis. And mobility must also take into consideration structural elements, transportation, highways, roads, in order to refine the selection of those municipalities that are at the highest security level and safety level in order for us to reopen. And tomorrow we will announce them at PressCon, and we will let each governor know which municipalities will be. Now, parents and schools. There is scientific evidence showing that schools, particularly they are centers for contagion of infectious diseases. Why?
Elementos por regresar a la nueva normalidad, como lo vieron en el semáforo, escuelas es la que se enfrenta a la mayor restricción, la última que quisiéramos. En estos municipios seleccionados de manera muy cuidadosa, puede ser que haya un regreso fácil a la parte de la vida escolar, pero en todos los demás de inicio no, excepto que lleguen al punto de seguridad representado en el semáforo por el color verde. Entonces no teman madres y padres de familia, estamos conscientes de toda la evidencia científica relativa al riesgo de transmisión en las comunidades escolares y lo hemos cuidado para que sea el espacio que permanezca con las mayores restricciones. No vamos a exponer la salud y la seguridad de ninguno de las personas y menos de la niñez y la juventud. Va a haber definitivamente parte de los protocolos, de hecho eso lo establecimos al momento de ir trabajando en colaboración con la autoridad escolar, que es quien toma estas decisiones, el maestro Esteban Moctezuma, en aquella sesión del Consejo Nacional Educativo del 14 de marzo, cuando se decidió el cierre de las escuelas y se acordó que en su momento se tendrían que preparar la sanitización de los espacios públicos, la capacitación del personal, los protocolos de conducta al interior de la escuela, ciertos elementos de reorganización del espacio físico de la escuela. Entonces todo eso tiene que estar previo al momento de que pudiera considerarse abrir un recinto escolar. Vamos a darle la palabra.
Absolutely. What about education? Yeah, definitely part of the protocols. And this was established since the very beginning in collaboration with the school authorities. They are the ones who make those decisions. Esteban Moctezuma at the National Educational Council on the 14th of March, when we decided to close up schools, and we decided that we needed to sanitize the public space, we needed to train the staff, and we needed to come up with behavioral protocols within the school. So all that was taken into consideration, and all this needs to be addressed before we even consider to reopen a school. First you, and then you, and right now it's 46 past 9, past 7, sorry. From Piedapag, we've been patrolling some hospitals, Chalco, Iztapaluca, and the outskirts. Journalists have encountered people who have been knocking outdoors in different hospitals, and this is people who barely have access to internet and this type of resources. So my question is, how can we give them information in a simpler way so that they don't have to be zooming around Mexico to find a hospital for their families? And we have reports of people who have had rebounds, people who had recovered from the disease but now are sick again. Do you have any information of this being a pattern, or maybe have you reported this is something important to track? Probably we need to track and monitor for more than 14 days. And another question. We know we have a health system with a lot of lacks, and the majority of families in this country have someone with hypertension or an obese family member. What's the kit that we need to have at home in order to treat a patient that is not showing very severe symptoms? What do we have to do? Do we need to use an oximeter? A thermometer? What's the best
Y hay dos
thermometer
caminos.
for us to
Si usted es una
use?
persona que
Do we use
tiene
paracetamol?
diabetes, hipertensión, enfermedad pulmonar o cardíaca crónica,
Because
inmunosupresión, vive con VIH, las demás, es una mujer embarazada, las condiciones de riesgo que hemos mencionado, definitivamente obesidad también, no se espere y vaya a evaluación médica.
So don't wait.
El otro camino es,
If you have any of these conditions, go search for medical attention.
De 60 años, quédese en casa y
If you are over
¿qué se puede
60,
hacer? Y aquí viene la
stay
respuesta.
home.
No hay un tratamiento específico
There
para
is
combatir
no
al virus
specific
SARS-CoV-2.
course of
Como no lo hay
treatment
para la
for
gran mayoría
SARS-CoV-2,
de virus
the
que
new
producen
coronavirus
enfermedades
SARS-CoV-2,
respiratorias en el humano.
in
El
humans.
sistema inmune, el sistema de defensas
The
eventualmente va a
immune
eliminar el virus. Se ha
system
considerado un periodo precisamente de 14 días en el
usually
que se elimina el virus.
fights the virus and
Usted,
eliminates
si
it
tiene fiebre, no quisiéramos que tenga fiebre.
on
Puede
average
usar medicamentos
during a
para
period
la
of
fiebre
no more than
que se
14
compran sin
days.
receta. El paracetamol, también
But
conocido como
we
acetamol,
can address
es el
some of the
mismo
symptoms. For
mismo.
example, if you're
Y la
having fever,
cantidad de tabletas
you can
que se
take
tienen que
some
tomar o los miligramos generalmente vienen en la
paracetamol.
propia etiqueta.
Of course, the
No quisiera hablar
doses,
de
the
dosis
dosage, you can
específicas
usually
porque
find it on the
confusión como
label
si esto fuera una
of the
receta
medication.
en la
But
propia
this is medication to
pero
treat
vamos a
the
ponerle
symptoms,
esas indicaciones.
such as fever.
Y esto le quitará la fiebre, le quitará el dolor también.
And this will
Finalmente,
help
este
with
medicamento
pain.
quita el dolor de cabeza, dolor de garganta, dolor de músculos y articulaciones. Hay que mantenerse muy hidratados.
We
Muy
need to
hidratados.
stay
Esto
very
quiere decir tomar al
hydrated,
menos 8 vasos de agua al día,
at
vasos de
least
250 mililitros, es decir, 2
8
litros de agua al día,
glasses of water every
preferentemente
day.
agua simple.
Of
Es
course,
lo
we're
ideal,
talking
al
plain
agua
water.
simple. Las bebidas azucaradas son, en cierta manera, inadecuadas para la salud.
So remember, we're talking about plain, simple water,
Agua
at
simple.
least 2 liters a day. No
Hay
sugary
que mantener una
drinks.
alimentación habitual,
Sugary drinks are not
preferentemente
appropriate
rica en
for
frutas y verduras.
hydration.
Hay que dormir
You have
bien.
to have a diet that is rich in
No estoy yo muy
fruit and
en
vegetables.
condiciones de
We have to
recomendarlo,
have
pero
good,
bueno, cuando es posible hay que dormir
good
8
amount
horas
of
al día.
sleep. Maybe I'm not the
Es
best
deseable.
person to
Y
recommend this,
definitivamente
but
para proteger a
if
otros en la
the
familia,
conditions
mantener
allow
esa
it,
sana distancia,
you should
que es
try to
estar durante toda la
have
convivencia a la
8
mayor
hours of
distancia
sleep
posible.
every night,
No
and you
compartir
want to stay
instrumentos
as
de
far
uso,
physically, as
la
far
botella de agua,
away as you
el
can
vaso,
from
el plato,
your
la
relatives
cuchara, porque
or the
también son
people
medios
who live
efectivos
with
de
you.
saliva para
Do not
proteger.
share water
Bueno,
bottles.
gracias. Vamos a poner
Do
esa
not share
explicación de manera simple. Ahora, termino con la alerta.
the same
Si cualquier persona de
containers
cualquier edad
that you
tenga
use
o
for
no
storing
tenga las
food
condiciones que se consideran
or
de riesgo,
beverages.
en algún momento presenta dificultad para
If
respirar,
at some point
siente que no tiene suficiente
you
aire
experience
entrando a los
shortness of
pulmones,
breath,
se fatiga fácilmente,
what we call
se le ve
respiratory
pálido o
insufficiency,
puede ver
meaning
pálido, o peor
you
aún,
feel you
una
lack
coloración
air,
inusualmente
it's
oscura de la
hard to
piel,
breathe,
eso es aún más grave que la palidez,
and this produces fatigue, and it produces
debe ir al hospital
you to exert an
inmediatamente.
abnormal
Porque esto
effort
habla
in order
o
to
somnolencia,
get air
somnolencia
into your lungs. If you present these symptoms,
persistente,
you need to go
debe
to
ir
the
al hospital
hospital.
a ser evaluado, porque podrían ser
And
signos de que
because
está teniendo el curso de complicaciones
these could be
de el
potential
Esas serían mis recomendaciones. Hizo otras
symptoms
preguntas, no
that would indicate that you are developing
sobre los
complications.
hospitales, también nuestra absoluta simpatía, hemos visto estas situaciones y estas
And
escenas de angustia de las familias.
about the hospitals,
911.
we would like to
Hay que
express
llamar al 911.
all of our
Efectivamente,
sympathy. We've seen
ahorita ya
the
es cada vez más
anguish
común el tener acceso
and
a
the
una
concern of all these
aplicación móvil,
families.
no tenemos que asumir que eso existe.
And remember, you have to
911.
call
Y si usted es una
911.
persona en necesidad por
If
esta o
you
por
are
otra
in an
razón en la
emergency
calle,
situation,
que necesita
call
apoyo de emergencia,
911.
911. En todo el país,
The whole
funciona el
country.
911.
This is a
Y
nationwide
desde el inicio de
number.
la preparación en el mes de
And
febrero,
since
hicimos
several
un
weeks ago, since the
ejercicio
very
específico de
early
entrenar
preparation
al
stages,
personal del 911.
we
Existe una
provided
red de
training,
centros
specific
reguladores de
training for
urgencias
the
médicas en el
911
país
personnel
que están
so
interconectadas
they could
con el
provide
911.
orientation
La
regarding
atención que
the
tiene el
COVID
911,
pandemic.
personal de este centro de emergencias, por cierto, mi agradecimiento a todas y
I would
todos
also
los
like to
trabajadores de este
thank
sistema,
all of the
es
workers
canalizar a la persona y decirle, en este momento puedes
of
encontrar
this system, all of
un
the
acceso a
people who
hospitalización
work
en este hospital.
at the
De acuerdo
911
con lo que está,
hotlines.
es una asesoría telefónica.
And yes, you can call this number.
Es
They will provide
importante, ¿por qué hacer énfasis en el uso del
phone
911?
orientation
Porque te va
service.
a de donde marques, ya sea un celular o
911
un
is a good
teléfono fijo,
number.
te va a
It's an
comunicar
important
ese
number to
mismo número
remember
911
because
a tu centro más cercano.
it doesn't
Y
matter where
esa
you're calling from,
del centro
from
911 más cercano a
any
donde tú
place
estás
in the
ubicado,
country, from
va
a
a
cell
saber
phone,
a qué
from a
hospital
from a house number, they will redirect you to that number will redirect you to the closest attention center, so they can send an ambulance and provide urgent medical care. And regarding the phenomenon of people being reinfected after they have recovered from the virus. Remember, if after you're discharged, you start presenting again symptoms like coughing, fever, throat aches, or shortness of breath, then you have to go back. You have to go back to the hospital for a reevaluation. But this is still a new virus, and we are still studying its behavior. Thank you, doctor. Just a number of clarifications, and thank you for taking questions from foreign press. So I just want to clarify a few things. This total number of fatalities that you have provided, have all of these been tested? Were they tested when they were alive or after they died? Usually, we had both. We have both. Ideally, we have the pre-mortem test, but sometimes it's post-mortem. So, second question, why are you using such a low, why are you applying such a low number of tests? Is it a matter of resources, or is it a technical decision? And could you explain? Well, we have very, very limited time left, but we have explained this several times in different occasions, in other conferences and through other social communication strategy. But basically, there are different kinds of cases of COVID. There are outpatients, what we call ambulatory cases, but we also have hospitalized patients. And we decided to focus on the hospitalized cases. But we are testing all of the hospitalized patients, and it's not a matter of resources. We have bought already 300,000 tests more, and if we need to buy more, then we will buy more. So it is a technical decision. But you didn't think there was a need for more tests? Well, we would need a longer session. But basically, this was a technical decision. Talking about the mortality, do you have the data for the overall mortality rates for different years in Mexico, nationwide, and the distribution per state by different infectious diseases? Yes, we have presented the information in different occasions. We have a very robust epidemiological system in Mexico, and we have all this data, and we have presented it. We have an institution, which is the National Institute for Geography and Statistics, and is an autonomous institution and is in charge of keeping track all of these statistics. There is a very rigorous process that follows international standards for the classification and categorizing of different diseases as they are recognized by the World Health organization.
Hasta no todavía.
But do you have the
El
total
proceso
number
implica
of
tener una
deaths?
revisión exhaustiva de las causas de
No,
muerte.
because
México tiene un certificado
the
de
process
muerte
is
con
long
varios
and there's
anexos.
an
Hay
exhaustive
personal especializado. Entonces, 2019 se
revision
conoce
of
el número, lo
the causes
presentamos
of
el
death
sábado
in
también.
order to have a
Invito a ver
final
la grabación de la
number and a
conferencia de
proper
prensa,
distribution.
pero todavía no son estadísticas oficiales
So
hasta
we
que la
have
autoridad
a number,
independiente del gobierno dice
but
cuál es la estadística formal.
it is still not an
2018
official
hacia atrás
statistic.
está disponible
So far we are still processing the information for 2019, and 2020 of course hasn't even ended. But so far you can, all of the data from 2018 and back, you can access it.
Nuevamente le invito a ver la
And
conferencia de prensa del sábado pasado.
I would like to
Hablamos de
invite
todo
you
eso, pero
to
se lo resumo en tres
watch
palabras.
the
El proceso se hace en
Saturday's
forma
conference
continua, pero la estadística
so you
oficial no se cierra.
have a
Tenemos
better
mes
understanding
por
of our
mes
statistical
cortes de
system.
información sobre mortalidad y
But
en tiempo
basically,
real
it's a
tenemos
continuous
información de los
process.
certificados
There
de
are different
defunción
types of
que son
information.
digitalizados.
We have
Nos
information
queda
that we are
un
updating
minuto,
on real
ya se
time.
acabó.
We
Le invito a
present every
volver a
4
ver,
hours.
hacer cuantas
There's
preguntas considere
information
necesarias y ver la conferencia de prensa del sábado
has
pasado.
longer processing
Ya son
times.
las 20 horas,
So we
se
present
acabó
it
la conferencia de
as
prensa,
we
pero está invitado
have
cuando
it
guste.
ready.
Gracias.
So it is 8 right now, but you are invited, of course, to come again to the conference and continue asking your questions. Thank you.